You know, it's so funny. It's so funny how there's this discussion going on now these days. There's this discussion going on with whether people who do VRChat content are VTubers, and if VTubers can create VRChat content. And it's funny to me because when I first started streaming, I actually thought about this a lot. I was very much kind of like not sold on the idea that because I was just doing VRChat content that I was a VTuber. I wasn't quite sold on that idea. And, you know, in a way, I'm still kind of not. But, you know, these days, now that I stream in both 2D and 3D, I think it's more... I think now it's more so clear that I am a VTuber, mainly because I at least utilize the commonplace tools that most VTubers use. There are VTubers who utilize 3D avatars in VRChat to represent their identity for sure, but the majority of them are not. I'm pretty sure that's a minority. I'm almost confident that it is a minority of people who are VTubers who utilize 3D avatars as their identity solely and leverage VRChat solely for that purpose. I don't think that's a common thing. Most VTubers who have any salt in their name are utilizing live 2D usually. And but I do think VRChat streamers do think themselves as VTubers too. I think they do. What's up, country? Hello. Welcome in. But yeah, I just thought it was I think it's been kind of funny. I appreciate the head pat, Shadow. Thank you. I think it was amusing that this discussion is a very hot topic right now over the last week or so because of Twitch's backpedaling on their policies on attire. There's been a substantial conversation about what constitutes proper attire. And basically the argument, from my understanding, is that VRChat is a game, so you cannot apply the same rules to VRChat streamers due to the fact that we are utilizing avatars within the confines of a game which has its own rules. It has its own attire standards, its own TOS, as it were, which we are not allowed to go against. And that's not to say that this girl right here didn't get banned for having underboob. That's not to say that didn't happen, because it did. It did. I got banned for, like, all these VTubers getting mad because they're getting banned for underboob. Yeah, VRChat streamers get banned for underboob too. So it's not as if we're completely exempt. We just have certain rules. We have certain rules that we have to follow. And, you know, but I just thought I think it's a very interesting discussion, especially because, you know, I don't really consider myself, like, I do consider myself a VTuber now. I do now. But when I first started, I didn't. I was still kind of torn on that, but chat was like, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, you're a VTuber now. If you're a VTuber, I'm like, you know, maybe, possibly. Possibly. What do I actually think about it though? I think if you're doing just VRChat content, if you're just a VRChat streamer, I don't really think you're a VTuber. And I'm sure your mileage will vary on that opinion, but I wouldn't consider someone who just does VRChat or just quote-unquote plays VRChat as, you know, the uninitiated say. People who are uninitiated say they play VRChat. People who've been playing VRChat for a long time don't say they play VRChat. We are in VRChat. We experience VRChat. You know, I'm pretty sure that's a common narrative, but I do think that there is a difference, obviously, but that's just my opinion. I don't think it's crazy though. I don't think it's crazy to think that. But I know people will have differing opinions. People may disagree or agree, and that's perfectly fine. I'm always open to opinions on that. We would assume that Twitch's policy team are the ones who are looking at, are making the decisions. But it appears to us, you know, I think it appears to both VTubers and people who create VRChat content that the people who are creating and establishing the policies for attire, it seems that they are not very aware of what VRChat is and what VRChat streamers typically do. Obviously, we're all different. I'm a VRChat streamer. We all do different things. We do similar things too, but we're all very, very unique in our approaches to things. But I do think that Twitch made the right decision to maintain that VRChat is a game under its own TOS and has its own rules to follow. And of course, you know, us as VRChat creators, you know, we have our own rules. And well, no, we don't have our own. Well, yeah, we do have our own rules, and we will follow them. And I don't think that being a VRChat streamer entirely equates to being a VTuber. I don't think that that's the case, personally. Which is why I believe that Twitch deciding that Twitch is its own, not Twitch, that VRChat is its own thing, is the better decision. And they should treat VRChat like a game, and obviously should qualify it to be under, you know, if it's sexual in nature, it should be in the sexual themes category, which is what we've agreed on. That was basically the agreement. If you create VRChat content, and your content is leaning towards a sexual content genre, you should just mark it with the sexual content thing, and your thumbnail will likely get blurred in the discovery area for Twitch. And I think that's the trade-off. It's the trade-off. That's all. So, I mean, that's kind of my thinking on it. I just thought it was a very interesting thing, mainly because when I first started off, like I said, I didn't really consider myself a VTuber because I was just doing VRChat content, you know? Your voice is always lovely to hear. Thank you, Country. I appreciate that. You're very sweet. Thank you, thank you. Good to see you, too. VRChat technically is the game. True. As a VTuber, it is an actual avatar persona for whatever is going on behind them. Yeah. I'm not agreeing with them. I'm not agreeing with them as all. Twitch is extremely inconsistent. Yeah. I mean, like, we all know this. They just make 18+ tags mean something. I mean, they pretty much did. Honestly, they did. Like, the sexual content and the blurring of the thumbnails, that was a pretty good answer. And honestly, I think regardless of what category you're in or what game you're playing, if your persona, if you're a likeness, if the person that represents you is dressed in a very risque manner, and you don't use the sexual content tool, you don't use sexual content, what is it called? Marker, then you should be penalized for it. You know, that's the 18+ answer. So I think that's what it should be for everybody. And if you're a VTuber, like, you're basically representing yourself with whatever game that you're playing. Like you said, Shalon, yeah, VRChat is the game itself. So if we're in the game, like, we don't have a singular, most people don't have a singular persona that represents them in VRChat. That's just not how it works, because it's a game that allows that kind of flexibility, technically speaking. You can literally wear whatever avatar you want in VRChat, as long as it exists within the confines of the category. So essentially, your content should reflect, you know, the nature of the game, and obviously if you're going against that, and you're not marking your content accordingly on Twitch, from the Twitch perspective, you're gonna dress like in barely any clothes and not put on the sexual content marker, you should be penalized for that. And as VTubers do, they have their own identities, they have their own looks, and if they are going to be doing anything that is sexual in nature for their content, regardless of the game that they're playing, they should absolutely be using that sexual content tag also. And their thumbnail should be blurred just the same. But then again, you know, I'm not an expert on this topic. I've looked into it. I've read. I've listened to many perspectives, both VTuber and both people who are, like, you know, categorically VTubers and categorically VRChat creators, predominantly at the very least. So I've read into this. I've looked into what Twitch's response is. And, you know, there is a level of inconsistency and flip-flopping that's going on, for sure. And that needs to be improved on. People who are setting policy need to understand what they're setting policy for, which should require them to at least have some understanding of what the majority of the content is for VRChat and what VRChat is, and what the majority of the content is for people who are predominantly VTubers. But I think the discussion of whether VRChat streamers are VTubers, I don't think that's the point. I think by falling into that trap, we kind of miss the point. We ignore the thing that actually matters, and it really comes down to the content that we're creating and the category that we are in and the markers that Twitch has provided for us that we should be making use of. But yeah, that's just me. That's just my thinking on it. Is that the amazing, talented, brilliant, and beautiful Nephi I hear? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm all of those things, but but I appreciate the compliment all the same. You know, I'm just the me. I'm just me. I'm just a cat on the internet.